All right, so thanks, Amy, for taking the time to do this. First question for my audience is, before we begin into the get into the nitty-gritty of the care response and what you guys do, just kind of tell the me and the audience, how has public safety been like in the city of Seattle?
Well, public safety has not been great in the city of Seattle. Like many large cities, it was a little bit of a perfect storm to have the impacts of COVID, people going home, funding volatility in the nonprofit and community-based server um, the provider community. And then we also had the defund movement and a lot of police leaving the department, going to other jurisdictions, some policy failures. We had a lot of, when you think about substance use disorder, drug use, a lot of our designs for rehabilitation or treatment, they didn't really contemplate fentanyl. This is a different, much more powerful drug and addiction. It's smoked. And so you wind up with a situation where a lot of people need help, but there's no place to go. There's not appropriate treatment on demand. And, I talk a lot about fentanyl dependency because that correlates with a lot of the different crime we're seeing. They lose everything and then they become desperate to continue using. And so things got a lot worse by the data. Crime got a lot worse between 2020 and 2022, and overdose got a lot worse. And now we're starting to stabilize. Our police department is becoming more healthy and able to staff. And then for about a year, I've been in the position to run the third public safety department called CARE. And the idea there is that I run 911 and I need to be able to just look at the calls for service. What are the types of calls coming? Are they more social work calls, mental health calls, and then send the right first response? Don't send police to a mental health crisis. That's the basic idea. And so I've been doing that. I've had that team out, the first care team, since last October, the end of the year. And now we're expanding to go citywide. So that's going to have really positive impact, I think, because it frees police up to do police work. And also my team is better positioned to actually get people into services and to get them help.
Yeah, because that's what I was gonna ask. Like how does like the care team sort of like address issues around public safety and to make sure that everything's kind of streamlined and that there isn't any confusion, if you will, with
Mhm.
sort of getting things in order. So if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I think that public safety and public health are the same thing. And so I think if I have people who are languishing on the sidewalk, sleeping on the sidewalk or under a bridge, or who are, using in the open and overdosing, that you're not going to have public safety, right? That is not a safe or healthy environment. And so I've been stressing from the beginning. I've been doing this work for about 18 months. I came from the nonprofit sector, but I've been stressing it's not just about sending care out, sending the care team responders out to intervene. I need to be able to then get someone into rehabilitation. If somebody's sleeping unhoused, where should they go? Is there what we call low barrier? If somebody is using a substance, I still need to be able to get them indoors, right? So that they can stabilize because nobody can be treated for anything as long as they're living on the street. And so it's been really meaningful to be able to I think, fan the flames of urgency around these issues. And I work closely with the Seattle Fire Department, with Health One, and then with some treatment providers so that we can stress we need something called buprenorphine, which is a medical support. We need that in the hands of fire and EMS so that if we reverse an overdose, then we can basically give somebody something that kind of stabilizes the withdrawals so that they might come into treatment. So yeah, I think things are getting better and they will continue to get better as we grow this team and organize our response.
Yeah, because that's what I was gonna ask too. Like, what sorts of approaches are you using to like address not just public safety, but like you said, public health, because it also coincides in a way.
Oh yeah, it absolutely, there's an intersection there. One of the things that we've been able to do is really map the system of different service providers. So there's lots of different housing providers that I know well, but then places like Evergreen Treatment, Lead, Co-Lead, Reach, there's all these different groups doing good work to get someone properly assessed and then into treatment. And so I'm always saying I run first response teams, right? So there's a 911 call, I send someone, but then what? And that's the part that we haven't been good at. When I arrived, I realized in 911, oh gosh, I'll keep sending the same unit to the same person day over day over day. Somebody falls into crisis every day at 6, and I send law enforcement out because they're suicidal. But it would be so much better to actually figure out what's going on. What is happening here? Does the person need better case management or medication or a different kind of evaluation or a different kind of housing environment? And so, can we invest enough time in that conversation to get someone actual help?
Mm-hmm. My next question is, like, let me see if I'm reading. Yeah. How effective has the rollout of the care team been? What sorts of, results have you seen?
Yeah, the pilot has gone really well, actually. One of my first objectives was to try to free up police so I could get them to what's called a priority one call. That means an urgent threat to life in less than 7 minutes. And I don't have very many police to be able to dispatch. And so I'm trying to say, okay, if I can send care to these lower acuity, less urgent calls, then can I get police to other calls faster? And I can. One of the things I was trying to study was, does the care team feel safe? We're downtown. We know there is a lot of violence and a lot of, especially kind of chaotic behavior accompanies use of drugs like meth. Are they going to be safe, or do we need to call police backup all the time? And in the first 540 calls, we only one time had to call police. And it was because somebody needed a ride somewhere and they just became a little bit erratic. And so we called them back. So that was one of the things I was looking at. Are we successfully dispatching the right team? And we are. Now we're about 800 calls. So that's going well. And a lot of it's about the morale, of first response and of community. Does the community want this? And every place I go, I'm in a lot of neighborhood meetings, a lot of community meetings, and especially outside of downtown, I always hear, like, when are you coming? We need the care team here. We have lots of mental health crises. We can see it. Can you please expand?
Mm-hmm. That was my next question. Like, what has the community response been to, like, to the care team? Like, what have they said?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's been overwhelmingly positive. I think in part because the community had been asking for this for a long time before I arrived. I moved back I had been in the Cincinnati area, and by the time, I arrived, this mayor recruited me during George Floyd. I mean, people had already been crying out for alternatives to policing. People know we shouldn't be policing social problems. And what I learned quickly is police don't want to go to those calls. They know it's not appropriate. They do understand that sometimes if you have someone in some sort of crisis, the gun and the badge and the uniform can be scary, no matter how skilled they are, how compassionate, that is not appropriate. We should reserve law enforcement for when it's required. Is there a valid reason to think that I need a gun and a badge? And, about half the time, no, you don't. And so the community, I think, is relieved. They're relieved that we are really reimagining the whole system of first response right from the 911 call. I always say 911 is the first responder. And so if that call taker can make a more accurate assessment, oh, I don't think this person is violent. I think they're having a seizure. I think they, might be experiencing this hallucination, or this might be the impact of drugs. Let's send care out first and see what's going on.
mm-hmm. To kind of wrap this up, like, what can people take away from this conversation? How can sort of programs like CARE sort of ensure people that people can be safe and protected, in case there's if they're ever in danger, if there's some sort of incident. Yeah, how trustworthy, how can sort of, what's the best way to put this? How can the care team kind of, um what can uh what can people, how can sort of the care team program help, ensure that people are, safe, and that it's a reliable program to
Yeah.
trust? Yeah.
Y- Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I think what I want people to know everywhere is that across the country, if you just look at 911 calls, about 40 or 50% of the calls don't have anything to do with law enforcement. And very often they don't have anything to do with the fire department either. They are more social work in nature. This is a behavioral issue or a mental health issue or some kind of conflict that's not violent. And so it is long past time to send out a better first responder. Seattle has the second highest attempts to die by suicide in the country, Seattle, Tacoma, the metro area. So we have a lot of people in crisis. And if you think about someone who is thinking about taking their own life, why not send out the most skilled professional who's trained specifically in that so that somebody can have a chance at life? And so, my dream is that in 10 years, if you see law enforcement dispatched anywhere in this country, it's because by the data, we thought we had to. We thought that there was a public safety threat, that someone had a gun or a knife or something like that. Otherwise, we would always send this other team. So, yeah, I think it's a very exciting time where there's a lot of consensus around this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.